Hey guys, Greg Benz here. In this video, you'll learn how to easily stitch a multiple exposure panorama, such as this scene here, where I have 3 different exposures for each of 8 different camera positions. So it's a very wide scene with a lot of dynamic range. In total, I've got 24 original raw files, which I needed to combine together, both the exposure values and the different camera perspectives. And I've already done that and put them into this single file here, which is itself a raw file, a DNG file created by Lightroom. So this has the full view and it has the full range of shadow and light detail. Even though you don't see it here yet, it's not processed, but this raw file can be processed like any other raw file from the camera into your finished image. And this is the finished image that I've already created for this scene. Now I did this using the multiple processing techniques that I go through in great detail in my exposure blending master course. But the key question for this video is, how do we get to this point? How do we combine these 24 or however many raw files you have into this stitched pano that has the full range of blended exposures? I really like the Lightroom approach because it's very simple and it works most of the time. There are some edge cases where Lightroom wouldn't work and you might need to use a more advanced tool like PTGUI, but most of the time the simple approach I'm going to show you here is going to work just fine. What you can do is select a few different exposures and then right click and choose PhotoMerge, where you have a couple of options. One is HDR, which will blend the different exposure values, and Panorama, which will of course stitch together your panorama. The question is, which one should you do first? Should you take each scene as an HDR and then combine those into Panorama? Or should you create a panorama for each exposure value and then blend them together as an HDR? Well, let's take, for example, the brightest exposure here, and I'll just grab a few of these so we can look through and imagine combining these into a panorama for the bright exposure. And then we could go to the next exposure and select all of those, and we'd stitch them together. And then we do the same thing on the darkest exposure and stitch those together. So ultimately we'd have a bright pano, a medium pano, and a dark panorama, and then we'd blend them together. The problem is that with a lack of detail in these darker exposures or the different detail in the brighter exposures, Lightroom might not blend them the same way. This pano might move, for example, little details of these rocks or blades of grass from one panorama to the next. So if we create multiple different panoramas, the detailed pixels may not align. We may get some artificial ghosting or other artifacts. So the better approach is actually to combine each of the different HDR stages, each of the different camera views first, and then make a panorama one time. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll select this view. So the first 3 exposures are all the same camera view here, just different brightness values, and we need to blend them together. So right click, go up to PhotoMerge, and we'll choose HDR. Now, if you're averse to using HDR because you don't like the way things out of Photomatic's look or things like that, don't worry. What Lightroom is doing is creating another raw file that really looks like any other raw file. It gives you awesome control to create very natural looking images. It just has more dynamic range. Now, if you want to process it like an HDR, you certainly can, but nothing is forcing your hand here. So don't worry. If you don't like HDR, you can blend with luminosity masks like I do. Within this dialog, we have a few different options. The first is auto align. You should leave that off. Shoot your images on a tripod and then leave this off. If you turn auto align on, then Lightroom's going to try and move the image around, and it might look at little details of cloud movement and align them and then cause like rocks and other details to move that are already aligned. So auto align will take a perfectly aligned image and it might ruin it. It's better to shoot on a tripod and just not use the auto align feature. Auto settings, if you turn this on, is going to behind the scenes flip a bunch of development module switches for this output. You're seeing a preview of that, but you can go to the develop module later and change these settings. So it doesn't really matter whether you use this or not. I just generally kind of leave it off, but it doesn't matter. Next is the deghosting. I would leave this either at low or none. When you have this on here, if we click the deghosting overlay, we're not seeing anything. So right now it's not detecting any movement in the image, but if it did, it would show a little red highlight, probably over some piece of cloud, letting you know that it thinks that's what's moving. I would leave this at none if you don't need any. Low might be a good idea if there's a little bit of cloud movement or something like that. So I'll just leave this at low. And then lastly, we have the create stack option. And what will happen there is it will take these files, the original source images, and this new output. So it'll be 4 images here, and it'll put them into a stack with the HDR on top. It's just a convenient way of organizing the images. It'll make it easier for us to blend the panorama when we're done stacking these. And it also shows you that you've completed each of the blends. So it's just easier to make sure you're working with the right file. So I would generally use the settings that I have here, where you may toggle between low or none on the deghosting, but otherwise I would use these settings, click merge, and now in the background that HDR is being created and we can move to the next set of images. So we'll click and shift click to select these, right click, PhotoMerge, HDR, and we're just going to do this process over and over for each of the different camera positions using the exact same settings here. You can see that in the background we have a new stack here. So the original 3 images we had selected, now that that's finished rendering in the background, they've been grouped and stacked, and we still have our 3 images we're working on here. So that's how things will proceed as we move. We're going to be creating these stacks. We'll just click on merge, let this run in the background, click on the next set of 3, right click, photo merge, HDR, and we'll just keep going. So I'll speed up the video at this point just so you don't have to look at the monotony here, but this is how the process would proceed. Now that Lightroom has created an HDR for each of the different camera positions, we can go and stitch them together. So you can see here the different HDRs. Because we're looking at a stack, the top image that's been set up for us is the .hdr file. It is the output we need. If we open up this group in the stack, would be the underlying original raw files, which we don't need. But all we need to do is shift click across this and it will just select the top image, the HDR. Now we can right click and choose PhotoMerge Panorama to begin the stitching process. And you can see within the stitched image here, there aren't a lot of options. There are a few different projections. Spherical and cylindrical are the two that you're likely going to use. I like to toggle between them and just see which one looks better. What you'll typically find is that one of them is going to be taller than the other, so it'll change the perspective. And you can see in an image like this, the spherical is not the most ideal, where it's kind of compressing things. And that makes sense because I just shot a horizontal pano, so cylindrical is more likely the one you want to use. But I do sometimes use spherical for a single row pano when I want to expand it vertically. So it just depends on the image and how you might want to warp it. Next, you have this boundary warp option, which is designed to take these areas of missing pixels and fill them by stretching the image out. So as we move the boundary warp to the right, you'll see that the image is going to fill things. So if you like the result, you can just use boundary warp to fill in these edges. Of course, you could leave it alone and then in Photoshop use content aware to deal with that, or crop the image. If you click on auto crop, it's going to cut out any areas that would be transparent. So it's a pretty significant crop here because of the corners. Another way you can approach this is use some boundary warp, maybe like 50%, and then do auto crop. I like to do that a lot because that will give you an ability to keep more of the image without the more extreme warping you might see. And you can of course leave auto crop on and try to move things around. So you can see with full boundary warp, the cropping wouldn't matter. And as you use auto crop with less boundary warp, you're going to get more cropping. So I oftentimes do auto crop with about 50% just to minimize the corners and get more of this central area. You can see where the water here was getting closer to the edge. So it's a personal choice, but you do have to commit at this point in terms of how you want it to look. So I would spend the time to get the right boundary warp. And then lastly, just like we did in creating the HDR, the create stack option will cause all the underlying source images to get stacked with a new output, and we'll just see one DNG output file. So I do like to use that. So let's finalize the boundary warp, maybe around, don't even need that much. Actually, I don't mind cropping it close here. What I do care about is making sure the water looks natural at the bottom, and I've got a good bit of this arch on top, which I'll probably crop some more later, as well as the left and right edge, which I did in the original composition, but I never know exactly where I want to cut it. So I do like to include probably more view than I'm going to use and then crop down, just because it can be a little hard to visualize how you want the finished panorama to look. So now we'll just go ahead and click merge to give us the finished result. Once the panoramic stitch is done, you'll see that you have a group with all the original images inside of it. You could go, of course, and clean out any of the original RAWs or the intermediate HDR files if you don't need them, and go ahead and delete them. I just tend to leave them. And on top here is the HDR file, which you can see is labeled HDR Pano 2. You can go into the develop module and now process this like any other RAW file to extract shadow detail and highlight detail and all that sort of good stuff to get to your finished image. If you want to learn more about how to multi-process a RAW file, be sure to check out my Exposure Blending Master Course. And if you'd like to see more videos like this on YouTube, be sure to click subscribe for this channel and ring the bell to be notified of new videos.